So what is Canary Pack? Well, it's a project I've been working on for a while in which I try to design an entire pack of new pets. Parts 1 and 2 will be linked in the description. A lot of stuff in this video will make more sense if you watch those two first. Alright, today we move on to Tier 3, but first a couple of little bits of housekeeping on Tier 2. There was some really good feedback and we've taken some of that into account. So Milk is now on Tier 3. Instead of Tier 2, and it's been replaced on Tier 2 with Guava, which was on Tier 3, which is basically the reverse of the Papaya. So Papaya is swap places with the nearest friend behind, and Guava is swap with the nearest friend ahead. Now, I did have these on separate tiers before because I wanted to have a stat food on every tier, but I guess that's not really that big a deal. And I'm sure there are probably other packs in the game that do not have a stat food on Tier 2. Now I have also made a change to the pheasant, and I did say that I was going to save some of the balance adjustments till the very end. However, I think this one is probably important to mention now because it's going to have an effect on some of the future pets. So pheasant is now empty space needed, remove this and give 2 random friends +1 attack and +1 health. So previously it was start of battle, and that obviously caused problems in terms of the attack order. So you would be incentivized to have the high attack pheasant to make space for the pets that need to summon at start of battle. But doing so would make it harder for the pheasant to draw snipes or weakness or ailments and so on from the opposing pets. So I would imagine empty space needed would just trigger whenever a pet that needs to summon into an empty space tries to do so but is unable to. And then at that point the pheasant would remove itself and the ability would trigger. So I think overall a slight adjustment, but has a big overall effect to the way that a lot of the pets will synergize in the pack. So on to Tier 3 itself. Now we don't need to go over the other food items because it's just garlic and lettuce, which are already in the game. So we'll go to the furthest left pet, and it is the Arctic Fox. 4-2, faint, give cold to the nearest friend behind. Now this obviously has parallels with existing pets in Unicorn Pack. We've got Visitor and Phoenix, which can give ailments to your own team, and you would use Unicorn to heal those ailments. So obviously we need some other pets in our pack that are going to take advantage of this, because simply giving ailments to a teammate is probably not the best on its own. Although the Visitor does give ailments to your team, you are giving ailments to the opposing team at the same time. But I feel like this has enough benefits within the pack itself to justify it. If that turned out not to be the case, then of course you could just make this give a little bit of stats as well when it faints. So directly related to this would be the Cleaner Wrasse. Now if you know anything about these fish in real life, they swim into the mouths of larger creatures and then eat all the debris left around their teeth and gums, I think. Do fish have gums? I'm not sure. Someone can let me know in the comments. Anyway, it is friend gained ailment, remove it and give a random friend +1 attack and +1 health permanently. So this is the counterpart of the Unicorn. It's 1 tier lower, so it gives half the number of stats, but it's also giving them to a random friend, so you have a bit less control over where the buffs actually go. And then continuing the theme of beneficial ailments, we're going to go to the Snowy Owl. Start of battle, give the opposite enemy cold and deal 2 damage to 1 random enemy, double when cold. So this is a combination of the Frostwolf and the Hawk. It's going to give cold to the opposite enemy, but then the snipe is actually going to be random. So initially, you're going to have a low chance of actually hitting the pet that you gave cold to. However, with each subsequent level, you're going to do an extra snipe. So at level 3, with 3 snipes, you've got a pretty high chance of hitting the pet that you gave cold to. Now clearly with this being start of battle and the Arctic Fox being on faint, they don't immediately work together out of the box. So we need a way to give the Snowy Owl cold in the shop, and we can achieve that with the Red Wolf. Adjacent pet summoned, deal 2 damage to adjacent pets, works once in shop, twice in battle. Now this one I spent quite a bit of time tweaking the numbers because I felt like it could very easily get out of hand. Originally it just had 3 triggers, but then you can get into loops where you're just buying faint pets multiple times per turn. I feel like that's too good. Clearly stuff like Mantis is designed so that you can't get too many faints in a single shop phase. And dealing 2 damage initially means that it's not going to be able to faint everything. It will be able to faint the Arctic Fox, But you could of course run 2 of these wolves with a gap in the middle and buy the pet into that slot in order to feint something that has 4 health. Or you could simply level up and start dealing higher amounts of damage in order to trigger those feints on the bulkier units. But this also has an additional functionality in the battle in that if it's up at the front and the opposing team is a summoned team, it's going to automatically attack pets that are summoned. There are quite a few things that are going to synergize with this later on in the tiers, but for now we'll move to another one on this tier, which is the boxfish. Now this is the kind of equivalent of the betta fish and tropical fish. So this also has a 2-pronged ability, kind of like the platypus. So it's buy, give adjacent pets +1 attack, feint, give adjacent pets +1 health. So with 2 HP, we can feint it with the red wolf. So we could be buying it and just immediately getting +1/1 to 2 pets if it was beside a red wolf. So kind of like the way that the mole's original ability worked. That ability is gone from the game now, so I don't have any issue adding it back in. But clearly you could also use this without the red wolf. If you want to take advantage of the attack, then you would probably want to stack multiple boxfish, and you don't want the red wolf just immediately feinting everyone that you buy onto the team. So next up we'll go to the pom-pom crab, and I think this creature has multiple names in real life. Some people will call it a boxer crab, but I thought pom-pom crab was appropriate. And this is going to be the junior version of Team Spirit. So friend level up, give 1 random friend +2 attack, +1 health, and then 2 friends, 3 friends on the higher levels. Now maybe this is too many stats for tier 3, I'm not sure. You could easily lower this to +1/1, but given the fact that it has pom-poms, I mean, how could it have any other type of ability? I would highly recommend reading up on these in real life because they are absolutely bizarre, and I didn't know that they existed prior to trying to make this pack. So next we'll go to the sun bear. Now this does have a 5/5 stat line, but we'll see why in a second. End turn, if the turn number is odd, lose 2 attack and 2 health, and give it to the leftmost shot pet. So this is our version of the dromedary/polar bear. Again, like the guppy on tier 1, which may or may not be changed, it loses 2 attack and 2 health. So it's not damaging itself, it's just straight up losing the stats. And in order to try and balance this out, because +2/2 is quite a lot, it's only on odd turns. So sun bear, it only works during the daytime. So I guess it would be higher long-term benefit, but much weaker in the short term, because if you want to stack the buffs, you're going to have to wait much longer than with dromedary or polar bear. Next up we go to Babirusa. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation or not, but close enough I think. So this is a tier 3 version of the boar. After attack, gain +2 attack and +1 health. If this has 10 or more attack, take 1 damage. Now, as we progress through the levels, the limit for the damage to be taken increases. But this is intended to be kind of thematic. Again, this was a creature I'd never heard of in real life. These have tusks that grow through the roof of their mouths and can actually hurt themselves if they grow too long. So very, very unusual. I think definitely lends itself to this idea of taking damage if your attack is too high. Alright, here we have 2 example lineups using some of the tier 3 and below pets. So let's just walk through what would happen with this battle. So start of battle, we have Canary here. So detect, snipe, give adjacent friends +1 health, if not +1 attack. So the opposing team doesn't have any snipers, which means we're going to give attack to both the leaf insect and the sugar glider. Let's assume for the sake of argument that the canary has higher attack than the sugar glider because of the buffs from the pom-pom crabs. The sugar glider's ability is to swap places with the nearest friend ahead and gain attack. So these 2 will swap over, and the sugar glider will now have quite a sizable attack boost overall. So this team on the left doesn't have any start of battle abilities, which means we'll move straight onto the clash at the front. Now let's say for the sake of argument that the leaf insect knocks out the Arctic fox. So the Arctic fox feints. It gives cold to the Babirusa, which triggers both the box jellyfish ability and the cleaner wrasse ability and the Midas tamarin ability. Now the wrasse will remove the cold, and so the Babirusa is not going to take any extra damage when it moves to the front to attack the leaf insect. So next we go to the Gala. Now this one I initially gave a parrot-like ability. It was a more complicated copy ability because it looks very similar to the original parrot emoji. I decided it was a bit too overcomplicated and decided to make it the sheep equivalent on this tier because we didn't actually have any summon pets on tier 3. So Gala 3-2, faint. If the turn number is even, summon 2 2/2 lovebirds. Otherwise, summon 1 3/3 lonely lovebird. Now, the lovebirds are down here. Here's the normal one, doesn't have any ability. But we've got the palette swap here for the lonely lovebird. And its ability is summoned, gain love potion perk. So because it's gaining a perk, it's going to be able to trigger the Midas Tamarin in battle, along with other things outside of the pack like a tabby cat and so on. But it also means it will take more damage from the leaf insect since it actually has a perk. So I went with this ability for a few reasons. One, I think it's important that you need to have some sort of method for summoning multiple pets quite early. But also, I think it's nice to have the chinchilla / loyal chinchilla style spawns. We can also feint the Gala with the red wolf in order to try and get the achievements for these pets. And I think that's something that people always look out for when they see a new pack. Alright, here we have another example face-off with some different pets. So let's try and work out how this would play out. So the Snowy Owl, let's assume it has the highest attack for the start of battle abilities. So that means it gives cold to the Gala. Where's cold? There we go. And it will snipe a random enemy as well. Let's say that it hits the pheasant, but the pheasant has enough health to hang on. Next, the Poodoo has the next highest attack. It doesn't have a start of battle ability, but it does have the papaya. So it's going to now swap places with the Gala. So you can see that that would be quite a useful technique to use to avoid summon support being sniped at the start of battle or given an ailment. And the papaya disappears. So the next start of battle would be the macaw. So it attempts to summon the scarlet macaw. Let's just say that it's a level 1, so it's only a 2/2 unit. The red wolf is now going to trigger because an adjacent pet has been summoned. So it's actually going to instant kill the scarlet macaw here. And it's also going to kill the Gala, which only has 2 health. So let's assume that the turn number here is even. So the Gala faints. It is going to try and summon 2 lovebirds. We don't have space. However, the pheasant's new ability says empty space needed. Remove this and give 2 random friends +1 attack and +1 health. So the pheasant disappears, gives some buffs to the team, and another lovebird spawns. Those 2 summons are going to trigger the Poodoo, so we'll get some extra attack onto the red wolf at the front. But of course, another adjacent pet has been summoned here because we've got the lovebird spawning here. So the lovebird is actually going to be fainted by the red wolf, and that will exhaust the in-battle triggers. Now, I did neglect to mention that the bearded dragon would have sniped the Poodoo because it swapped places with the papaya. However, let's say for the sake of argument that it survived and I don't have to re-record the start of this. So that just leaves the honey badger. Now, there are actually no detect pets on this tier. Originally, the honey badger was detect, but I felt like the ability was just way too complicated, so I toned it down, and we will have 2 detect pets on tier 4 instead. So honey badger, opponent empty space, summon 1 6/1 badger in the opposite slot for them and give it honey perk. So this one combines a lot of the things that I really like in the game. So we've got summoning for opposing teams with Rat and Kappa, but also just the chaos that can ensue with badger builds. So the idea would be putting a low-statted badger onto their team and then trying to snipe it during the battle. Now, the way I would imagine this working is opponent empty space could trigger at many different stages. It could actually happen immediately at start of battle if they end up having a 4 squad or less. It could happen when something faints and it would just be like empty front space for Doorhead Ant and so on. So you could have a honey badger summoning immediately at start of battle and then using one of the perks to swap places with the bombardier beetle, which then snipes the badger and triggers the feint damage. But of course, outside the pack, there are also pets like flycatcher and iguana, which could trigger it immediately. Now in my head, these would always be level 1 badgers. I think it would be a little bit unfair to be summoning an 18 attack level 3 badger for the opposing team. It might do a bit too much damage for a tier 3. Alright, that's us done with tier 3, and next time we'll go on to tier 4 where we really start to get into the meaty abilities that are going to make this pack work.